Peace Street Hype. We right here once again. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We right here in what's called Newport News, VA. You know how we get around. Today we got a special guest, a doctor we're going to interview today. We got some other people we're going to be interviewing right here in Newport News. Let's go ahead and see what's really the hype. You feel me, Street Hype? One, see where we at. You know what I'm saying? We in the hood. You know we always in the hood, right? We at a shopping center, but it's all good. We're going to go ahead and see what's good. Like it's pretty packed up already, huh? Let's see what's hot up in there. Street Hype is on the scene.
You're neglecting Virginia. You know, because they say you go to Atlanta, Florida all the time, and you go right by Virginia and the Carolinas. I've been neglecting North Carolina and South Carolina, but I'll make up for it in South Carolina because I'm going to be the keynote speaker this year at the Oyotunji African Village. They have a second annual grassroots conference, and it's going to be Thursday through Sunday, July 4th through the 8th. I'll be speaking on Saturday and Sunday, July the 6th and 7th. So put that on your calendar. You get an opportunity to go down there, get your spiritual reading. You can get a roots reading. You can get a name reading. They'll let you know what part of Africa you actually come from. You ain't even got to do that AfricanAncestry.com. They can tell you that at Oyotunji. You know what I mean? And get connected to African culture. So this is only my 4th book signing because my book just came out 2 Wednesdays ago. So about 2 weeks, maybe a little less than. I had my first book signing in Brooklyn with Alton Maddox, attorney Alton Maddox. Y'all remember him from the Tawana Brawley trial. And by the way, let y'all know how white supremacy worked. The Tawana Brawley case is still an issue. The white man who raped Tawana Brawley, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't know all the details, but I've been kind of following this, and attorney Maddox talks about this. I believe he sued her, and now she has to pay him.
Oh my God. And
restorative damages. Ain't that deep? How they didn't flip the whole case.
Wow.
Now the victim has to pay the perpetrator. This is how sick it is. So, but attorney Maddox, you know, he's one of the only men in this country on a national level who I think is really sincere and committed to the people. So I support him. And then the second book signing was Brooklyn as well, at the Nigerian church. And the third one was in York, PA, and it's the number 4, Shango number.
All right.
So there we go. Okay. Should I let them or should y'all got any questions? I'm new to the book signing thing, so I don't really know what to do. Y'all know me, I just get on the mic. You know, I'm kind of new to it. You know, I'm a rookie in that. You know, I just get on the mic and just go off. You know, but say that again.
You got a good pen?
I got a good pen. I bought a paper mate this morning from Philadelphia Staples.
Oh, Sharpies.
You gotta have Sharpies.
But see, them Sharpies, they be too sharp. I bought some Sharpies and they were just a little too sharp. You know what I'm saying? But just to let y'all know what I got the books. I got them shrink wrapped too, so you know they wasn't used, right? And I got the bookmarks to go with the book. The books are 20, and I have t-shirts. What I got? Medium, large, extra large, double extra large, triple. They're also 20. I got a couple copies of Hidden Colors too, straight from Tariq Nasheed. Those are 20. And then I got some of my own DVDs over there with different titles, everything from relationships to intellectual insurrection. Me and Professor Greg.
J-U-E-L-Z. I like that.
I know
All right. We live right here on the Street Hype Entertainment Show. We got a very special guest today. Introduce yourself, brother.
I'm Dr. Umar Johnson, a doctor of clinical psychology, certified school psychologist, educator, and Pan-Africanist. I'm down here in Virginia for my first book signing in the South.
Okay.
Also have a presentation tomorrow, a psycho-educational law boot camp for parents, basically teaching them how to deal with the psychoacademic holocaust against our boys. I'm going to go through the steps and the strategies and different ways that parents can fight to keep their children out of special education, away from the ADHD diagnosis and off of the dangerous psychiatric medication.
Right.
That's the new hustle. It's also the new Jim Crow. And psychology and psychiatry are playing a significant role in the marginalization and subsequent incarceration of African American boys by way of special ed and ADHD labels.
That's very interesting that you bring it up, because I was hearing about some stuff about 2 weeks ago in my hometown of Lynchburg. They were saying that most of the African American children there are 80% labeled as the special ed type of equivalent that you're talking about. I have yet to really look into that, but it ring my earlobes, and I'm like, wow. And they got a lot of these GED programs.
Yes.
What can you kind of speak on that a little bit? What's up with the GED program? Because I seen where they had other choices other than the GED program to educate our children, get a diploma.
In fact, well, first let me speak on your first point about the 80% of the children being diagnosed or placed in special education programs.
Right.
Now, even by the most liberal estimates amongst white psychologists and psychiatrists, no more than 25% of a population should be mentally ill or mentally deficient.
It's 25%.
No more than 25%. So when you're talking 80, you're nearly saying that every child in that district has a learning disability.
Right.
You follow me?
Right, I'm with you on
That
this.
is statistically impossible unless you believe that African children are intellectually deficient. See, if you look at special education with a historical perspective, looking at how special ed grew out of intellectual racism, how it grew out of eugenics and African racial extermination, then it makes sense. Because most of the fathers of white psychology and psychiatry believe that we were genetically inferior and deficient.
Right.
So when they see an 80% black special ed rate, they say, why is everybody surprised? Those people are rejects. Okay?
Gotcha.
But if you African, understanding who we are and what we bring to the table, you say this is impossible, okay, for any group of children, okay, to be so inundated with mental illness. Okay? Why is that being done? It's being done to set up a pathway that marginalizes the black boys, cut them off from being able to compete with white boys and justify the subsequent incarceration. For example, you spoke on the GED program.
Right.
Why do they push them through the GED program as opposed to the high school diploma?
Right.
Because the GED marginalizes you. Let's look at it. As a black male, as Malcolm said, you got to be twice as good to get half as much.
Right.
Okay, twice as good. The GED says you're half as good.
Right.
You see?
You generally.
Exactly.
Right,
So
right.
what if you got a black boy with a GED and a white boy with a diploma, he don't stand a chance. If you competing for a job, if you're competing for college, if you're competing for trade school, if you're competing for a loan, small business loan from the business, okay, from the bank, how are you going to justify, okay, your position that you're qualified to be accepted into this program when the GED by definition says that you weren't able to be successful in school? Now it says you can do grade level math, reading and writing, but the difference between the diploma and the GED is that the diploma indicates that you have mastered the skills.
Right, got it.
The GED indicates that you are familiar with the skill,
I looked them over
but the
some
diploma says that you mastered the skill. More importantly, the diploma communicates responsibility. The diploma communicates commitment. The diploma communicates your ability to set a goal for yourself and fulfill the task. See, if I pass the GED, I might be just as sharp as the brother with the diploma.
Right.
But because he has a diploma, it says he went to school most of the time, did his work most of the time, passed the test most of the time. So if I'm an employer, if I'm a college, if I'm a trade school, I'm looking for someone, okay, who I know is going to be able to come here and stay here until they're done without dropping out. If you dropped out of high school, how are you going to prove to me that you're not going to drop out of college? When college is 2 or 3 times as tough as high school, how are you going to prove to me that you're not going to drop off the job? How are you going to prove to me that you're not going to drop off of the trade school program? So what I try to get the young people to understand, the diploma says more than you have the skill. GED says you got the skill, but diploma says you got the commitment. And all the GED is, it is the diploma for black people. It is the Jim Crow. We're going to give them the GED. We're going to get the white folks the diploma. And why is this done? To justify why they receive access to opportunity and we do not.
And another thing you mentioned, and I noticed too, in my community, was that you had mentioned something about a lot of kids getting labeled as having ADHD and all these different, all these different mental disorders being hyperactive and stuff like that. And they starting them all pretty young, drugging them up. Can you touch base?
Certainly. ADHD is like the weapon of mass destruction for black school-age boys. It is part racism and part capitalism, part oppression and part exploitation. Okay, on the oppressive aspect of it, you have normal African-American male childhood behavior that's being pathologized as a mental illness.
Right.
Since when did behaviors become illnesses in the first place?
Right.
Okay, a mental illness and a behavior dysfunction at one time were two different things. But now we've taken normal behavior and we pathologized it. You see, before, if you were mentally ill, it's because something was wrong with the brain, something wasn't functioning in the mind. You diagnosed the mind. It was up here. Now we're diagnosing what they do with their bodies. You see, so in other words, being hyper was never a psychological illness. Being inattentive was never a psychological illness, because these are what? Regular human behaviors. You're hyper a little bit, I'm a little inattentive. You follow me? It's just normal behavior. But they decided to pathologize childhood behaviors as mental illness. When they done that, that opened up the whole floodgates for millions of black boys to be diagnosed with so-called ADHD, so-called conduct disorder, so-called oppositional defiant disorder, so-called disruptive behavior disorder, all of which are nothing more than disorders that grow out of a war on black men. In other words, we're going to lock the father up. So the boy is home without a dad. We're not going to deal with the fact that he's fatherless. We're simply going to label the behavior that comes from fatherlessness.
Gotcha.
Look at how you see this now.
Yeah, I understand that.
See, we can't say the reason why he's ADHD is because he needs a father, or he's conduct disorder because he ain't got no male presence in his life, or he's ODD because he's angry because his father in jail and nobody's going to take him to go visit his dad. Okay, we ain't going to talk about the fact that fatherlessness underlies all of these disruptive behavior disorder syndromes. We're not going to talk about that.
Or they won't allow fathers to live with the mothers.
Exactly, exactly.
Gotcha.
This whole thing is about breakdown of the black family.
Gotcha.
You lock the father up and then you put the boy on medicine to deal with a behavior that grew out of the fact you took his father away from him. 80% of black boys on stimulant medication don't have fathers in their life. 80% of black boys diagnosed with ADHD ain't got active fathers in their life. This is not a psychiatric issue. All this is the Wall Street psychiatric drug complex, the publicly traded stock company, drug companies, okay, hustling the fact that mothers are doing their best to raise sons without the father being there. But obviously, okay, can't no woman raise a boy by herself and make him into a man, just like no man can raise a girl by herself and make her into a woman. You need both energies. That's why God gave us two parents. Now, unfortunately, we got a lot of people in our community who think our kids only need one parent. You got mothers running around, all he needs is me. You got fathers running around, all she needs is me. It's not going to work. Okay, you look at any index of mental illness, children who grow up with one parent are not as stable as those who have two. Now, the way you stabilize it is you make sure your son gets some masculine energy from somewhere. Might be an uncle, might be a cousin, might be an older brother. If you're a father raising daughters by yourself, you got to make sure she gets some feminine energy from somewhere, whether that be an auntie or an older sister. But children need both. And the whole ADHD thing is about an imbalance, not necessarily of hyperactivity or inattention, but an imbalance in the masculine and feminine behaviors that these children are being inundated and raised with. The ADHD is nothing more than a kid coming to school daydreaming about personal issues, family issues, and the fact that he misses his dad. All it is daydreaming. It's not even inattention, it's daydreaming about personal issues. For a lot of our children, the school is the only place where they can go and really just sit there and think. You follow me? Because at home they always on the go, in the hood they always on the go. They're with their homies. School the only place where you can just chill and think about life. So because it's the only place they really get to do that, it becomes the place where they do that. So academics become secondary to my life's issues, which makes sense. Okay? But what they want to do is pathologize it, call it ADHD, so they can keep making money off our kids. How much are they making? $50 billion a year.
Wow, big
on brain drugs. And the thing about it, parents are buying into this. Black parents are buying into this. You know,
we don't know no better.
Yeah, we don't know no better. It's the hustle. They're not telling you about the side effects. They're not telling you that Ritalin and Concerta and Adderall and Cyclern and Strattera and all these anti-stimulant medicines are nothing but derivatives of cocaine and opium. The same illegal drugs that sent his father to jail is now being given to him in school so he can cope with not having his daddy. Look at the sickness in that. We created the problem, allegedly, because his father was selling crack. But now we're going to give synthesized cocaine to his son so he can sit still long enough to be miseducated until we let his father out of jail.
That's very interesting. Whoa, that's a shake up in the brain right there, Street Hype. That's good. Now, only you got some educational materials right here that people can purchase here.
Yes, sir. This is my new book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, 204 pages, 6x9, self-published. And basically what I'm trying to do with this book is educate our community in how they do what they do. Specifically, how they use special ed as a weapon. I take you through the psychological evaluation process, okay? And my message is real direct. And what is that? Just like when you go to court, if you get arrested at your arraignment or pretrial hearing, or at the hearing itself, the case, the trial, you walk in and you're being told that you're going to be given a fair and impartial opportunity to prove that you're innocent of the charges brought against you.
Right.
That's what you're told. Right. But you know before you showed up in court, the prosecutor, the public defender, and the judge already had a meeting before you got there.
True, that's
and they already decided what they was going to do with you before you came into court.
Right.
Special education functions the same way. The parent signs a paper giving the school permission to test their child. And the parent signs under the assumption that my child is going to get a fair and impartial psychological evaluation to see whether or not they have a learning disability, mental retardation, autism, emotional disturbance, if they need special ed for ADHD. They think it's going to be fair. But they fail to realize that before you even sign permission for the white school psychologist to test, and the reason I say white school psychologists to test, because 99% of all school psychologists in America are something other than African. In fact, school psychology is one of the most racially segregated professions in America. You've never seen a story done on that. You've never seen a newspaper article discussing that. You've never seen Nightline, Dateline. You've never seen any investigative news television show that talks about school psychology, the people who are responsible for determining whether or not black children need special ed are in a profession, school psychology, that is one of the most racially segregated in the country. Wow. Why don't they talk about it? Because they want to keep it that way to make sure the special ed pipeline, the special ed to prison pipeline continues to function. How do you justify less than 1% of all school psychologists being black? I mean, look, we're about 17, 18% of the general population. Right. We only 1% of the school psychologists because it's a career that's kept silent. See, there's a lot of professions in America that are kept silent because they are instrumental in the oppression of black males in America. So they keep them very, very secretive, and school psychology is one of them. I went to a school that had a school psych program and didn't even know they had one until I almost graduated. Nobody told me about careers in school psychology. I had to find out on my own because they don't like us in these careers. Too many black people in school psychology, guess what begins to happen to the world of special ed? It begins to transform. Right. And when you transform the world of special ed, you know what you're doing? You're reducing profit, because every time I put a kid in special ed, that district benefits by receiving more money. Special ed is a hustle. Right. This ain't about helping nobody. This is about money. Right. Every time you put a kid in special ed, the district on average receives a 100% increase in the funding. So we both in 10th grade, right? You regular ed, I'm regular ed. But somebody said I need to get tested for a learning disability, which, by the way, can't be proven to exist. Can't be proved. You cannot prove a learning disability. You cannot prove ADHD. You cannot prove emotional disturbance. You cannot prove mild mental retardation. You cannot prove oppositional. They can't be proven. That's the good part for them. Because if you can't prove that he has it, you also can't prove that he ain't got it. And so now you drugging kids. You drugging kids over disorders that can't even be proven to exist in the first place. Which means what? Almost any behavior can classify as a mental illness in America today. So every kid gets drugged. Every kid gets hustled. You see, so the thing is that before the child got tested, the principal, the teacher, and the school psychologist, just like the prosecuting attorney, the public defendant, and the judge, They had a huddle, a discussion.
Already had the notes down.
And they decided before we called you about your son, before we even called you,
Right.
we decided he going in special ed. When we call you, you think we just coming together for the first time, say we want to give him a fair and impartial evaluation. We already decided we was getting rid of that little Negro. He's out of my class.
Right, we tired of these notes.
We just need your signature so we can go through the formality to make you think that due process will serve.
Right.
The prison process is identical to the special ed process.
True that, true that. You got to be educated on it. And this
You gotta be
educated. It's
educated.
going to kind of open the mind. And
It go through the whole thing.
Okay,
How they
gotcha.
special educate the kids, how they ADHD the kids, and I got the definitions in here. So a parent
So
can
you
go
don't
right to my
trick
book.
on words.
What is a learning disability?
Gotcha.
The federal code is in this book. What is mental retardation? The federal code is in this book. What is emotional disturbance? The federal code is in this book. What is ADHD? The whole criteria is there. Conduct disorder, the whole criteria is there. What are the main drugs they give our kids? What are the side effects of those drugs? And how much money do they make from them drugs? All of that is in this book. I have a chapter on behavior, teaching parents how to deal with this disruptive behavior without drugs. You don't need drugs to deal with. Drugs are only necessary when you too lazy to put the effort in to correct the behavior without it. Drugs are convenient, whether it's ADHD, whether it's conduct disorder, whether it's anger. Why is he angry? If he's angry, something's going on in that family, in that home. That's where the anger. But we don't want to deal with that because we got skeletons in the closet.
Right.
So we're going to drug him so everybody can stop complaining about his anger. We're not going to address the causes. See, the thing about the drugs, they don't address causes. They're not solutions. They don't solve nothing. All they do is suppress symptoms because we don't want to deal with the causes because it's too painful to admit that we need to do some things
doesn't
differently.
it compact and turn into something else?
Yes, it does. Because what happens when you're on a drug for a long time, you get addicted to the drug. Now, if you take the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency of America, what do they say? They say that opium and cocaine are classified in the same category as Ritalin. Just as addictive and just as harmful to the body. And that's the DEA. So if the DEA says Ritalin is dangerous,
Right.
why ain't the psychiatrist telling you Ritalin is dangerous?
Well, Street Hype, we got to wrap it up. We
Okay.
got some people waiting on it.
All right.
And I know we don't give them a whole earful of that.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But tomorrow,
Yes, sir.
come out and check them out.
11
right
a.m.
here, you know what I'm saying, in Norfolk, Virginia. You definitely going to have to get the book on his website. Hopefully tomorrow we'll come in, maybe catch
Oh,
some
yes, sir.
clips with
Oh,
Street
do
Hype,
that,
man.
do that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because, man, we're going to have to do some more interviews.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do
we'll
it.
talk
Let's
to you
do it.
later.
All right, beloved.
For the anniversary of the Nat Turner insurrection, as well as the Haitian Revolution, as well as the George Jackson assassination, Jermaine Shoemake was born in Philadelphia. That's me. But when my parents got married, my father changed my name from Jermaine to Umar. He should have left it alone because I struggled with Umar. Nobody thought that was cute. Nobody! But the point is, young people, is Frederick Douglass is probably the greatest black leader we produced in the 19th century. He's not alone. There were many others who don't get the recognition that he gets. And although he deserves every second of recognition, it is important that we understand that he did not work by himself. Martin Delany was there. Sojourner Truth was there. Harriet Tubman was there. Bishop Henry Highland Garnett, also a Pan-Africanist, the first black man, first black pastor to give a speech on the floor of the United States Congress. He was there. Alexander Crummell, first black man to build an institution for higher learning for black men. He was there. So there were so many other black men who was right by Frederick Douglass' side who don't get the attention. And if you ask me why don't they get the attention, I think a lot of it has to do with white supremacy, light-skin supremacy, and because Frederick Douglass was biracial, they tend to promote him more in our history books because his skin was lighter than many of his compatriots. And you'll find, as you study history, many of the darker-skinned revolutionary Africans are kept out of the books. But I want to be very clear with young people. We don't practice light-skin supremacy in the black community, okay? Whether we're butter almond or butter pecan, whether we're fudge or cinnamon, whatever color we come in, we're all African. None of us are responsible for our shade. And when we speak of light-skin supremacy, we're not just talking about light-skinned people. Some of the biggest light-skinned supremacists I know of are dark-skinned people who consider light-skinned folk to either be inferior to them or assume that the light-skinned brothers and sisters are somehow suffering from a superiority complex, which is not necessarily the case. Working in schools, I can tell you that some of the children I'm asked to work with on a regular basis are light-skinned African children who are being ridiculed and bullied by darker-skinned children because of their skin tone. So I ask you, who's the light-skinned supremacist? The light-skinned kid or the dark-skinned kid? Make sure you do your reading, get your homework done, master your writing, master your math, stay in school, don't be late, be on time, and keep on working because the sky is the limit.
So we live right here on Street Hype, and we have today some people who want to talk to us about food for a minute. Introduce yourself here.
My name is Karen Cooper, and I am Guru Raw. I'm a raw food chef.
Okay, then you have something called the 7 days in the raw.
In the raw, yes. I teach people how to prepare raw foods and feed their organs.
Now, what about you here, sir? Your name?
My name is Atum Dre.
Okay.
I am owner of Alkaline Gourmet, and we prepare foods that will prevent viruses, diseases, germs from occurring, which is the manifestation of diseases. So all you got to do is ask your doctor, can a virus, bacteria, or germ live in an alkaline environment? And they're going to tell you no.
That's what's good. Now, you have a little booklet, or she just still got the book?
She's the one.
And then what? You got the website?
I got my website is coming.
I have the website.
She has the
You
website.
had the website. I seen that written on. Okay, what you have?
I just got my
on?
email address.
Oh, okay. And what is your website?
GuruRaw.com.
Okay. Now, how long you been in the business?
Well, I grew up a vegetarian, and people thought we were weirdos, so raw food was just my next step.
Right. Okay. So you went to raw. And then what's the difference between raw food and possibly cooking? Besides cooking out some of the nutrients.
The nutrients. Well, the frying pan was invented. Need I say more? It's that simple. God did not create it.
Right.
He created raw vegetables.
Right, true.
Right.
So you tell them the proper foods to eat, or what's all in this book here exactly?
In this book, you have you have 5 days worth of recipes, and I called it 7 days in the raw because I wanted you to reuse some of these recipes and not try to recreate or think you had to look for something different. What I do recommend everybody to eat and drink for their life to clean their blood is dandelion. Dandelion. It can clear up any aches, pains, disorders that you may have. It is the best blood purifier that you can put into your body. Dandelion. And you can eat the entire plant.
I can go ahead and pick that in my yard.
You can, but you have to be very careful because they've sprayed it with so many pesticides and what is it? What is the other stuff they put on pesticides, I guess is
That's
good.
enough.
Okay, well, be careful when you do. You want to grow your own and you don't want to get it on the side of the road.
Oh, you don't want to get on the side?
Not the
No.
side of the road because you don't know who's
Or
gonna
in
use
your
the
yard.
bathroom,
That's right.
anything.
Dogs.
Right.
People.
So if you got your little section in your, like a garden, like, you got your blocked off, and you know it's growing in your yard, and you know nothing else is coming in that part,
Then
get
you
them,
do
soak
it.
them, clean them, just like you do regular greens.
Okay, well, we got learned something today.
Yeah.
And we thank y'all. Now, what is your website again?
GuruRaw.com.
Can you spell that?
Yes, GURAW. And my number is 757-342-2285, and I do phone consultations.
New phone consultation. And you, sir?
And mine is alkalinegourmet@yahoo.com. Don't have a website yet, so I'm just coming, so just bear with me. And my number is 757-310-2304.
Oh, can I also mention something else? I'm also a facial specialist, and my facials for men are $35. And like I said, you can reach me at 757-342-2285.
Okay, get the skin right.
Yeah.
Okay, then we live right here on Street Hype.
And
we
I
thank y'all.
I prepare foods from scratch, and I do consulting and lectures as well.
Are you doing lectures as well? Okay.
Because it started with me healing my mother of diabetes and ulcers. So once I did that, people started asking me questions, so I turned it into a business.
Okay. And that's where they can find you, Alkaline.
Yes, alkalinegourmet@yahoo.com.
And your name?
Atum Dre.
Atum, can you guys spell that?
ATUM Dre, D-R-E.
And you,
Karen Cooper.
Cooper. I got you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Y'all take care.
Thank you.